simply using a language they may know academically. It also shows empathy, respect, and willingness to bridge the cultural divides, the core principles that Madiba demonstrated throughout his life and his leadership. He believed that language can be a tool for reconciliation, for unity and deeper relationships amongst people of different cultures and backgrounds. The Freedom Charter says there shall be houses, security, and comfort. Since the advent of democracy, we have substantially expanded basic services such as electricity, water, sanitation, and houses. More than 80% of households today live in formal houses. Now, Comrade Chupu Matabata, when he was Premier of Limpopo, when I had gone there, and he said it not in a boastful manner, but he said it as a fact. He said, Comrade President, if you were to fly over many parts of Limpopo, you'll find that there are very few mud houses left. It means that many of our people have now are moving into formal dwellings. And that is a reality throughout the country. Now, that shows progress. We have built more than 3 million houses that we have allocated to our people. And I often say, comrades, in this day and age, I now think that we build a house for about 160,000 rand. We build houses and just give them as assets to our people who had no assets, and in some cases, these are people who were dispossessed of their assets and had to move from one place to another. Now, that asset, which is 160,000 rand, one time when I was in the Western Cape, a DA MEC said to me that, President, we've given houses to people. And I said, yes. And I said, if you were to value the houses that we're giving to our people today that we've built for 160,000, obviously others we built much cheaper earlier, it means that we are giving them an asset base which is worth easily, in today's market prices, more than 300,000. Now, I often go around our continent and other countries and I ask, what is your housing program look like? Many countries, they say, people have to pay for houses in one way or another. And I said, do you give free houses? They said, only exceptionally. We are amongst the very few countries in the world that gives such assets to our people. And even now, as we now want to modernize our policy of making houses available, we will be implementing what was set out in the Freedom Charter, that there shall be houses and security for our people. Through social grants, free basic services, health care, free education, school feeding schemes, and other interventions, millions of South Africans have been lifted out of absolute poverty. We still have unacceptable poverty in our country, but we have been able over the 30 years to lift millions of people out of absolute poverty. Now, quite often, we hear of other countries, and that's precisely what the National Chair was saying. We don't, as I think it's said in the Bible language, we don't count our blessings one by one and find that, yes, God has been good to us. We don't do that. Now, In many countries, they often count them in millions. You will hear them talk about their statistics. We've taken so many millions of people out of poverty. Now, when we look, as I said yesterday, at how we spend our national budget, our budget this year was 2 trillion rand, and 61% of that goes to the social wage. It goes to social grants. It goes to education, to feeding the young children at school. It goes to the 350 rand, which has now increased to maybe 370, and all that. That is what we envisaged in the Freedom Charter. And that is what we as the ANC also need to count. Yet, as we have noted, many communities continue to experience serious service delivery failures on a regular basis. Households struggle with the cost of living. We should never minimize this. We should recognize what has been done, but that should inspire us to do more and better. And this is what this NGC should be all about. We shouldn't navel gaze. We shouldn't rest on our laurels. We should now say, we have traveled so far, and we now must travel a much longer distance and improve the lives of our people. And yes, reduce poverty and inequality. These problems are compounded by the distances that people have to travel to work or social services and insufficient infrastructure in townships and rural areas. Reducing poverty and inequality is therefore one of our most important and urgent tasks as we pursue the vision of our forebears as articulated in the Freedom Charter that they adopted at the Congress of the People. The Charter says there shall be peace and friendship. South Africa is a force for peace, for partnership. We are a force for cooperation on the global stage. Our foreign policy emphasizes human rights, peace, mutually beneficial relationships. That's who we are, as defined in our Freedom Charter. We respect the rights and the sovereignty of all nations. Through international platforms, we contribute towards a more inclusive, just international order, using leadership positions to advance African and global South interests while strengthening multilateral institutions. The Freedom Charter was to later become the inspiration and guide for most of the extensive exercise of popular engagement in the history of our democracy, the involvement of millions of citizens also in drafting our new democratic constitution. The members of the Constituent Assembly elected in 1994 were determined that ordinary South Africans must feel that the Constitution belongs to them. Across the length and the breadth of the country, public participatory workshops, seminars, and hearings were held. There were talk shows on radio, on TV, and newsletters were distributed at taxi ranks and other public spaces. Around 250,000 submissions from the public were received on the refined working draft of the Constitution alone, in both its content and its spirit, and in the way that it was produced. Our Constitution is firmly grounded, not only on the substance of the Freedom Charter, but on the way the Freedom Charter was drafted through the consultation process that took place. Now, as we embark on a national dialogue, we must seek to harness that spirit that is so uniquely South African. The national dialogue seeks to bring all South Africans together to discuss the challenges that our country is facing and to define a common vision of a shared future. In public dialogues that will take place in every ward in the country, as I said yesterday, and in which will be organized in every sector, citizens will be able to put forward their concerns, their wishes, but more importantly, their suggestions and solutions on how we can build a better country. Like the Freedom Charter campaign, we expect that the national dialogue process itself will have a positive impact on our society. Comrades, in the year that we celebrate 70 years of the Freedom Charter, we celebrate also the centenary of the birth of two giants of our revolution. Isithwalandwe siyaparangwe, Mama Gertrude Shope, and Isithwalandwe siyaparangwe, Ndate Cholo. Earlier this year, we bid a sad farewell to Mama Gertrude Shope. As a member of the Federation of South African Women and as an organizer of the Women's March, together with Comrade Sophie de Bruyn, to the Union buildings, and later as the president of the ANC Women's League, Mama Shope had a profound grasp of the realities facing the women of our country. So we celebrate her centenary. She was a pioneer who was instrumental in shifting attitudes within and outside our movement on the place of women in the struggle and in society. As an activist, and as an organizer, and as an internationalist, Ma Shope embodied the cadre that our movement needs today. The dedication, the humility, the tirelessness, effort, and the deep love for the people of South Africa. Ndate Cholo is a soldier of peace, a champion of the working class, who has been an active participant in seminal moments of our revolution. A member of the Lutuli detachment, he was at the forefront of the armed struggle. As a member of the South African Congress of Trade Unions, the ANC, Umkhonto weSizwe, Ndate Cholo is an embodiment of our revolutionary alliance. As we honor his contribution, we have a responsibility to preserve and to strengthen that alliance and to make it a united and cohesive instrument of revolutionary change. Now, at his 100th birthday, on the 20th of October this year, Ndate Cholo said that the ANC remains the hope of our people. He called on the leadership of our movement to serve the people with commitment so that we may change the lives of the people. We are grateful for his wise counsel and his enduring revolutionary spirit. You may recall that at the January 8th, we awarded Isithwalandwe Siyaparangwe to him. I was able to have the privilege of going to robe him and to hand him over his Isithwalandwe and his certificate. I was privileged. The 70th anniversary of the adoption of the Freedom Charter is also about celebration, but it is also about reflection as well as mobilization. We must use this occasion, comrades, to reflect on our gains, but also, more importantly, on our shortcomings. We must mobilize all South Africans not only to speak of freedom, but to work together to achieve that freedom. Like I'm a volunteer of the 1950s, those 50,000 volunteers that were brought in for the drafting of the Freedom Charter. We need to reach out to our people to discuss this Freedom Charter, as the National Chairperson was saying. Like them, we need to be disciplined. We need to be earnest. We need to listen to the people, and we need to work together to address their concerns. In an article written on the occasion of the anniversary of the Freedom Charter, the revolutionary intellectual Comrade Mzala said, "We defend, fight, die for the ideals that are enshrined in the Freedom Charter, not because it is an all-time document, but because it is a revolutionary guide to a life free of misery and oppression. It is the demands of the people that have yet to be won. These are the kinds of ideals which most nations achieve, ideals for which men and women stubbornly and heroically resist torture in detention and grueling lives in exile, ideals for which our martyred dead stood firm and unflinching in the last minute of their lives. Such ideals cannot be taken lightly," he said. So, comrades, the people must govern, and calls for democratic government based on the will of the people is clearly set out in the Freedom Charter. And the second aspiration, so that when I test you next time on whether you know the Freedom Charter or not, is about all national groups shall have equal rights, rejects discrimination and all that. The third one, the people shall share in the country's wealth. The fourth one, the land shall be shared among those who work it. The fifth one, all shall be equal before the law. The sixth one, all shall enjoy equal human rights. The seventh one, there shall be work and security. And the eighth one, the doors of learning and culture shall be opened. And the ninth one, there shall be houses, security and comfort. And the 10th one, there shall be peace and friendship. So, comrades, those are the clauses of the Freedom Charter. Now, as we discuss all the issues we have to discuss on whether the NDR is in reverse or whether the NDR has stalled, we also need to ask ourselves the extent to which these aspirations set out in the Freedom Charter have been addressed. And by all means, comrades, we have touched on a number of them. But as Comrade Mzala said, we should continue to actually implement the Freedom Charter. As the National Chairperson said, the Freedom Charter is a living document. So let us all in this room this evening, all of us who love our people and our country, now stand up and hold hands right now and say together, these freedoms we will fight for, side by side, throughout our lives, until we have won our liberty. Mandla! Forward to the Freedom Charter, forward!